Welcome to Kiss the Reviews. I'm Armando. Corey's one of these people in here. And we have the cast, a couple of members of the cast, and the director from Waning Poetic. We figured we'd bring them in after we did the review. And we had George, obviously, on with us. That we did the interview with him and Mike. And we figured we'd bring a couple people from the cast on before the big premiere, which happens shortly. So I figured we just kick it off. We have, and if I mispronounce your names, I'm notorious for it. But we have T. Patrick Shore.
That was easy. You get no points for that. If you screw that one up, then we're done.
It's usually the Anglo-Saxon names he messes up the most. Watch how the Italian rolls off his tongue now.
Too much easier than that. So.
Yeah, we're getting the short end of the stick on this one.
Yeah, and we have Jiana Casazza.
Yeah.
Boom.
See,
and George,
we got it.
And George Massimillo.
There you go.
How we doing, George? Everything good?
Of course, great.
I'm just gonna sit here and drink my coffee. You guys have your Chianti or whatever you do.
We're gonna have the half-hour Italian hour. That's what we're gonna do.
Got the espresso on. Don't worry.
Speaking of which, that's what I chose tonight. Well, first I want to thank you guys for coming in. And we obviously watched the movie. We dug the movie. You guys did a fantastic job. I did have one question. I just wanted to kick kind of right off with, did anybody on the set, any of the actors or actresses, did you guys know each other beforehand? Had you guys worked on other projects together, or was this first time out?
This was our first time. I had never met any of them before.
Same. Not even actually. I didn't even see any of the folks that were ultimately. One person I saw at the audition, but everybody else was.
Me too. I don't think I met anybody. I kind of just was hoping for the best, and luckily it was really good.
We did so much matching. I'm surprised.
John and I never actually shot together.
Yeah, there were rumors that we were the same person. You never saw us in the same room.
Yeah.
But
oh wow.
Yeah.
So is this the first time you guys are
behind
meeting?
the scenes?
Should we introduce you guys to each other too?
Yeah. Well, we
met after the fact.
After the fact, yeah.
I've always wondered. Because and this is the one rule that we have on the show, regardless of movie, big budget, low budget, indie, big studio film, we never go in on the actors because you guys could do a better job than we ever could. And that was I always wanted to be an actor, but I knew I was never good enough. So I decided to do this instead.
His improv is shit.
It's terrible. It's terrible. But I always wondered, so for actors that are on set that haven't met each other, how easy is it to develop like on-screen chemistry or to jump right in and start working with each other?
Yeah, well, first of all, I saw your guys' review and it was, let me just say it was brilliant, and I'm not trying to blow smoke, but it was so entertaining. And I love your approach on it. I love the way you went after some of the characters as if they were real people. I loved it. And you were spot on with Clark. So like spot on. I was like, oh God, what are they going to say? But you guys were so good. Clark is like, what the fuck, dude? Oh, am I allowed to say that? Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Right ahead.
That is a celebrated word on this show.
You're like, where is this guy from outer space? Like, where did he just land here? Like, what happened? Like, how come he knows nothing? But what you guys, you don't give him, he's a fucking janitor, dude. And he's dealing with time and space continuum here. And you expect him to be able to explain it all to a bunch of 18-year-olds who are all stoned and whatever. So poor Clark doesn't know what he's in for. And bottom line is, he's there to find his dead wife. I mean, come on.
That's a great point.
Well, when you put it like that, Patrick,
you got to go easy. Right? You got to go easy on the guy. He's lucky he knows how to tie his shoes at this point. So he's not going to explain a wormhole.
Fair.
That is 100% accurate.
And now I forgot your question.
Yeah, like you had an agenda, and you're good now.
No, because I loved it. I was
brilliant.
Like, I thought the same thing about when I first was reading the script. I loved the character, and I was like, "What the fuck? What is it? Can't this guy give them something? Like say something other than I can't tell you. I don't know. You know." But I think that's what makes him. You know, he's this weird, quirky guy that just sort of shows up out of nowhere, and everybody's like, "What's he doing there?" You know. So, and I loved it. I loved the script. I loved the concept of this movie. First time I read the script, I was in love with it. I thought George did such an amazing job. So,
no, he did.
Absolutely.
And you guys all did a great job bringing it to life. And I think the original question was, how difficult was it for you guys to actually build chemistry, not having met anybody else?
Yeah.
Or was it difficult at all?
Yeah, I had a weird and John, I'm sorry, I keep talking.
Oh, no, that's okay.
I had a weird circumstances. Keep in mind, the entire cast was shooting for about 2 weeks before I got there because I don't come in until the middle of the film, and George shot this in sequence. So I was scared to death because I never met any of these people. I didn't know how they worked, and I walked into the set that day, and literally my first line is when Clark like walks through that door, and all 4 of them or 5 of them are just standing there like staring at him. That was my first day of work on the set. Like I walked through that door and I'm like, holy crap. Like I didn't know, do I need to know all my lines? What are we going to do here? So I hadn't met any of them and I hadn't worked with them. So it was a little scary, but they were all fantastic. And of course, an old guy on the set too. You know, I'm working with these talented young actors and actresses. And so it was a little intimidating for me, but everybody was just incredible. George, you know, set the tone on set. It was just a very warm and welcoming environment. And Gianna, now I will shut up and you can.
Oh no, that's fine. No, I'm gonna roll right off what you said. I think George really created a really nice place for everyone, and at least for me, I don't know if maybe it depends on the group of people you're working with, but luckily, we all got on like really quickly. I say this a lot, but it literally felt like we were like a little family when we were there, which is like cheesy, but it's true. Like we were all there. We were all the same age. None of us had met before. And, you know, we're working with these like silly characters. And this like, you know, we got a lot of comedic lines, and I think it allowed for us to like joke around with each other, and we were doing that all day. George knows there was never a piece.
Me and Patrick weren't in on a lot of jokes, but
Yeah.
we had headaches afterwards.
Between all of us, it was really amazing. So
as soon as George would yell "cut," like it would just start, like the conversation and the blah, 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 blah.
There was like
oh, okay.
Yeah, we had a lot to say. But yeah, in this case, I think the chemistry kind of came naturally for us because, you know, we're all going through the same situation, both, you know, in the script and in real life, and it was really fun to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you conversely then, because there is a lot of friction, especially with some characters who aren't here. Ella, who's probably like Hannibal Lecter terrifying.
I love how much you hate her. I love it.
I'll be honest with you.
The character.
I'm not going to call her by the character, but also.
And I wish Sophia was here because she is one of the most lovely, wonderful, incredible people, and that's why. What you guys did to Ella was just priceless.
And I'm sure she loved it too. I'm sure she loved it.
She totally loved it.
Yeah.
She totally loved it.
No, it's a total testament to her. Like, I literally put her up there with, like, Hannibal Lecter at this point in time.
100%.
She terrifies me.
Yeah.
And she might feel lucky that she wasn't able to do the interview because for therapy reasons, I was going to have her improv as one of my ex-wives. She played such an asshole so well.
I remember you guys saying, like, is this how kids are now? Like, do people act like this? And I was like, yes. I've met my fair share of Ellas in my day.
Wow. That's exhausting.
There are definitely a lot of people out there that really just, like, their life's goal is to make you feel stupid. and they derive so much joy from that. So many people.
So how was it then for you guys to have such a good chemistry off screen and obviously on screen, but in building that, she's kind of, I mean, as George described it, this isn't my words, in the interview we did, she's sort of the villain of the film. So
Yeah.
how was that kind of transitioning into that where you're going from like, what the hell, lady? What is your problem?
Yeah. I think and Sophia did a great job of this. Like you got to know like when you're playing your character when what they're doing is insane. And so she was able to do that. We laughed at it. You know, it was like she would do these scenes where she was just being an absolute psycho, and then we would cut and she would like we would just laugh about it because we all just know it's so insane. And it was honestly just really funny to see her do that. And then 2 seconds later, she's like yelling at George and just like being her silly self.
I
And you
love
see
it.
that contrast. And it kind of just makes you appreciate how good these people are at committing to the character, I guess.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. We were totally bought in. Everybody did such a good job with their role. Even confused Clark. It makes total sense. What everything you said, I'm just like, yeah, you're right. I couldn't if I was in that situation, I wouldn't explain a wormhole. I just get high with the kids.
It's
I'd be
basically
like,
what Corey does here.
yeah, spark that dude, Deb. Let's talk some shop.
Well, and speaking of the Deb character, because you know everybody had their lane and everybody had to stick with it. How did you prepare for that specific character? Were there movies that you watched?
I was very excited for this question. Yes, I did a lot of preparation. George even actually provided me with like some things that he think might be good. You know, like we did Dazed and Confused was a big one. We had a Spotify playlist of songs that Deb would probably have listened to. So we had Diamond Girl, Seals and Crofts. We had Dancing in the Moonlight. We had Smoke on the Water. Like all these, and I would listen to them. And like when I was driving to set, they'd be there, just playing in the background. I also talked to I have 2 aunts that grew up in the 70s, and I talked to them a lot about how it would be. And I think I just wanted to capture Deb as, you know, this kind of ditzy, awkward, but still really free and earthy. Tries to be down to earth, girl, the hippie, you know.
Yeah.
And I think watching like those movies and listening to that music, it puts you in a mindset because that's what she would have watched. That's what she would have been doing. And especially Dazed and Confused was a big inspiration because that's basically what she is the whole time. So a lot of that it took honestly it's a lot of research. Um, different like cultural things that were going on because also she makes a lot of references in the movie like global cooling, she says, um poverty, um like weed, things like that. And you know you have to figure out what the social and the general idea of those things were at that time because it's very different to how it is now. um like going to being able to afford college from waitressing, wish I could do that.
Right.
Yeah. But it's really a lot of like forgetting your old ideas of everything and really just committing to like, okay, this is what I know about a phone. Nothing. This is like
Right.
what's on my mind. It was a lot of that. And luckily I already really like 70s music and 70s movies. So it was barely even homework for me. It was just a casual Monday night. A lot of fun.
Love it. So, George, how much collaboration is there with you when building these characters up, especially ones that you have written slash created? With just developing them overall, or do you more give the actors kind of free range here to develop on their own, and you chime in every now and again as needed?
I spent a lot of time with like every topic, just Googling, like, when did this happen? When did that? Just to make sure I think I got it all right. Most of the years should match up
I
with
think you did a great
what
job.
makes sense.
Great job.
Mhm.
Thank you. It's, I appreciate it. Every time I speak to somebody from whatever generation that has seen the movie, they all say, "Oh my God, you got the '60s perfect, the '70s perfect," everything. So not perfect, but they appreciate it. They can relate to it. So I did a lot of research on that end, and I made the playlist. That was half the fun while we were casting. I was making all the playlists as we were
I
going.
loved
I'm glad
it.
everybody seemed to enjoy them. And then I think we had a table read, and I met with just about everybody, and everybody had some notes and things, and we went back and forth there. Ella had the most notes, but she's not here to talk about them. But no, but everybody's notes were fun, and we made small changes going into it. Once we're there, you kind of, especially on a lower budget, you're on such a time crunch that it's kind of you got to be prepared, and we'll have our few seconds to chat in between each one. But everybody kind of beforehand, I think for the most part, we had it all locked in, ready to go.
Nice. And was this? I'm sorry, Armando. This is what we do. Armando asks 2 questions, and then I just run over everybody for the rest of the show.
That's fair.
Welcome to Oprah with me. No, so a question I had, George, and I almost called you Clark. Patrick had brought it up before, where this is why we don't have any of the talent on screen with us, because we just call them by their character names constantly.
It's easy. I do it.
Actors love that. No, so with Patrick coming in later to the shoot, kind of like Matt Damon in Saving Private Ryan, he wasn't allowed at boot camp with the rest of the guys. Did you intend to keep him away, so there was kind of that awkwardness between him and the cast in that opening scene, or was it just the way the shooting schedule worked out?
I'd like to say I did that on purpose to do that.
So just say it, man. We already told you in the last interview, brother. Lie.
Yeah, you can totally lie here.
Lie.
That's
we
fine.
do it every time.
Unfortunately, everything usually comes down to the situation and what makes the most sense. You gotta, make the most of it. It worked out in that regard. I was more worried about him being scared because it got a little loud by that point. Gianna, you guys had a lot of jokes and what was the green glass door? Is that what?
Oh my God,
no,
that's a whole.
I still don't know what it means. I just had a joke the whole time.
Yeah.
Riddle? I don't know
There
what it was.
Yeah, to bring that up, there was there'd be a lot of time where we would be sitting, going over our lines, fixing costumes, hair, things like that. And one day, Teddy, who plays Ryan, told us about this riddle called the green glass door.
Teddy's fault.
Yeah, it's Teddy. I'm blaming him. You would say like an object that could and couldn't go through the door. And the whole thing was spoilers. It was like if it had 2 letters, it could go through the door. And we were like, it was like torture to the poor sound guy who was trying to figure it out.
Wow. Well, we didn't scare Patrick away, thank God.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick.
Right. Turns out Patrick could also go through the green glass door, right?
Yes, multiple times.
Did I say that right? That's quite a tongue twister.
Yeah.
I stayed away from it. I didn't even bother.
Yeah, that's a mess.
Don't even tell me about it. I'm not even putting myself in there.
Saying that right the first time was the most coherent I've been in 5 years on this show. So
that's a fact. That is a fact. I have a question, because we like to say we don't do research here, but we do a little bit. So I read, Patrick, that you graduated from law school, and so and then you went to acting school after, right?
Sort of.
Okay.
So I graduated from law school way back in the dark ages, and I had a 30-year career as an attorney. I was in-house counsel for Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company.
Oh, wow.
But all through that period of time, I was always acting on the side. So I would literally at lunchtime run out for auditions, and I would do things here and there. If I booked a job, I would take vacation time to work on it. I actually did an off-Broadway show while I was working full-time. And I would run over to the theater to the Wednesday afternoon matinee, and I'd run back to work and finish up my workday. And then I left my job right before COVID, retired to do the acting gig on a full-time basis, and I've been doing it full-time since then. So, yeah.
So you've been
for 30
wanting,
years. I feel like it was a brand new start, like about 4 years ago. So.
Gotcha. So my follow up to that, because obviously you've wanted to act for a while since you've been doing it.
Yeah.
So you have the law degree. Are you now representing all the actors that were on set?
Yes, we're suing George. He doesn't know it, but we all want a piece of the pie. So we're gonna be negotiating that once we see what the final take is. So.
You're doing a Blair Witch
Blair
Witch cast versus Lionsgate. Let's go.
Yes.
I like it. Take him down.
And that's going to be the sequel to Waning Poetic.
Yeah.
So.
Well, just to follow up with that, and I'm glad you went into that with the different cast members. Obviously, you two here. How do you balance? Because obviously, there's auditions you got to go to. You land a gig, and now you got to go here to shoot. How do you balance? If you're A, working during the day or whatever. How do you balance just your regular life with acting?
Yeah, well, for me, being a part-time actor will never work, because what was happening for me with a full-time job, I would go on these auditions, I would get parts, and I would have to turn them down because I couldn't take off from work that long. And I had so many stories of, I used to sneak out of one time I snuck out of work and I ended up going for this call, and I was on the 5 o'clock news that night. And my boss saw me on the news. When I told them that I was at the dentist.
You Ferris Bueller'd yourself, man.
So there's a lot of that. And it's hard to be an actor part-time because you have to be in this. It's a hard business. It's a really, really tough business because you are always looking for work. You're always unemployed. You're always just searching. So to try to do that, at least for me, to try to do that along with a full-time, and I have 2 kids. So to try to do all of that and have that crazy lifestyle where, sometimes I would get calls like 9 o'clock at night saying, hey, can you be on set tomorrow at 6 a.m., blah, 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 whatever. And that stuff happens. Somebody else dropped out and, they need somebody last minute. So you get that last minute call and if you say no too many times, they never call you again, so you always have to say yes. And it's rough. Now that I've been doing it full time, it's been great. But because I don't have to juggle and do that. And fortunately, I'm in a situation where I don't have to worry about the money end of it. I don't have to worry about paying my bills like I used to when I first started. But it's just a tough business, man. It is tough, and no matter how talented you are, it's just hard to get in there. It's hard to break, get in that door, get your foot in the door, and get that work. So it's tough.
Totally. I think in my case it's very different because I'm in school now actually studying acting at Pace, Manhattan, great program. And a big concern of mine when I was surrounded by all of these other young actors that had so much already under their belt was that I always knew I wanted to act. And when you're, younger and you have all of these goals for yourself, but no idea really how to achieve them. And also, you have to be driven to auditions, be driven to the city, travel all around. And I have 2 working parents that really couldn't do that. So I spent most of my time just learning and growing my craft the best I could until I felt like I was ready to do all of that myself. But when you're so young and you are surrounded by all these people that already have that, you're kind of like, wow, am I behind? Am I doing am I already too late when I feel like I'm starting early? And that was a really, when it came to balancing work and school, acting was the hardest part for me, because I already felt like I was too late, and I'm so young, like, in my life, and it kind of just felt like I was dooming myself a little bit. So I think a lot of it is giving yourself grace, um, doing things that you might not think are crazy but big projects, doing things with friends, just going out, recording your own little silly movie on your iPhone in a day, just so that you can have that and make that. Making your own things definitely helps me with that. And I think keeping that mindset that it's my passion and what I want to do, but I can't let it like pin me down in like a fearful way, like let it worry me, like Patrick said, is the biggest thing about it for me, because as long as I'm happy with like the amount of work that I'm putting in and I feel fulfilled with what I'm doing, I feel like there's no way I can go wrong with that. Because I always end up feeling proud of myself for what I've been able to do, and I think that's what does it the most for me.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic advice, I think, for anybody, especially just anybody trying to reinvent themselves in anything. Is just, it's not too late. Both of your stories prove that 100%
It's really,
from different angles.
yeah, it's really never too late or even too early to do anything that you want to pursue. And like even in my case, it's kind of sad to think like I'm in my teens and I'm already thinking it's too late, and getting to work with all these other people and like being on set for the first couple times, it really like reminds you like you're here, you're doing what you want to do, and that everyone starts out somewhere.
That's awesome.
Hell, as long as you get stuff on film.
Oh, exactly.
That's all that matters.
When I'm in school, I do all the student films I can, because just being on set and having something on film to just watch yourself, you don't even have to show it to anyone. It's the best feeling.
Yeah. I was just going to say one other thing, like a fundamental change in the industry itself started as a result of COVID, where auditions went online.
Oh, yeah.
And then when COVID ended, believe it or not, casting people stayed with that whole online submission thing. And still, I just went to an in-person audition like 3 days ago for a film, and I moved out of the city out to Long Island and thought, oh, this is going to be a problem, but everything stayed online. So I went to this in-person audition into the city. I remember, now I'm like schlepping into the city, but it has really remained online. So that helps with that whole work-life balance, because it's so much easier to submit for auditions and to actually audition because you're doing it in your home.
Absolutely.
So
I'm sorry we forced you guys to come down. We didn't do them online.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I remember your audition was the first live audition that I had been to since before COVID. I was like, wow, it feels. And for me as an actor, I love live auditions. I find live auditions to be so much better because you can really, get into the character and you can change and you can do things. When you're doing the online submissions, you're sitting by yourself at home, recording yourself on a phone and sending it in, and you get nothing. I much prefer in-person auditions. But the ease of auditioning, so I don't have to schlep into the city, 5 times a week.
A lot of opportunities too.
Yeah,
If for all different projects all across everywhere. I think it's got its pros and cons. I was so happy though to do an in-person audition because it had been so long, and just the amount of self-tapes that I get versus like in-person auditions, it's like 1,000 to 1 ratio, and it's very refreshing.
Yeah. And the other thing about the whole online submission stuff, it makes it so much easier for everybody to submit because it's the click of a button, So I know people, I try to be selective for the things that I submit for. Like I have to feel like I really can do that character and be that. But I know that there are people that are just going and they're submitting for every single thing that's out there, you know? So these casting people are bombarded with thousands and thousands. You know, back in the day, it's like you had to go through some effort to actually show up and audition for something. So you were only going to go and show up if you really thought you had an opportunity to get it, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
another thing that I tend to run into with the self tapes is when you do an in-person audition, you know, you're in the room, there's the energy, you do it once, twice, 3 times if you're insanely lucky and you have a director that really wants to see more. And then that's it. And that's all you have. But when you're doing the self tape, you can record yourself and then watch it back and be like, huh, I think I could do it better. And then you do it again and again and again. And you just get into this endless cycle of, I hate this. I don't like the way it looks. I hate the way that I sound at that one word at that one point. And it makes you like become a freak about it. And you know, it's good in some ways, but it gets to a point where I sometimes much prefer just having the one and done, because that also, I think, pushes you to subconsciously do your best work.
When you're sending something tape-wise, obviously not doing it live or even online live, do you try to put different takes on the character when you're delivering a line or something in that audition, or do you just look for that one perfect take that you think they're going to want?
well, usually you don't get, you know, you can only submit one.
Yeah,
you
usually.
know?
Oh, okay.
You can only do it one way.
They'll be like, oh, let's see that again. But for the most part, you just have to choose the one that you like the best, and that's the one that you get.
Yeah, and it's funny, at the audition for Waning Poetic, actually, and George, I don't know if you remember this, but when I got the sides, which are the, you know, the piece of the script that you get to look at before you go in for the audition, I was reading the lines, Clark's lines, and they made zero sense to me because I didn't know the rest of the story. I didn't know the rest of the script. And I'm like, what the hell is this guy saying to this 18-year-old girl? Like, it's kind of creepy, you know? I'm like, wow. And I didn't get it. So I went in there and I did the best I could. And I read it, and, you know, and I did the lines as best I could. And George, after I did it, he goes, okay, now I'm going to tell you that this is your wife, and she died, and you're seeing her now for the first time 40 years later. And the reading it made instant sense to me, like why this creepy old guy is now saying this to this 18-year-old girl, number one, but changed the entire scene for me, because now I'm like, okay, now I know why I'm crying in front of this girl that I thought I just met, you know? So it changed everything for me. Had I done that as a taped audition, my audition would have made zero sense, because I would have done those lines as if kind of like this guy saying, hey, Lisa, how are you? You know, like not, oh my God, Lisa, I haven't seen you in 40 years and you're alive and we're in love. You know, I mean, it was a whole different ballgame for me. So thankfully I had that opportunity in front of George to get that input.
That would have been a very different movie if Clark was just some psychotic janitor
Very
in love
different.
with an 18-year-old
Very
girl
different.
and crying.
And I got to tell you, that was a huge challenge for me, because to try to keep that not creepy was really hard, because, you know, I'm a guy, you know, here's this guy in the movie, he's supposed to be in his 50s, and he's talking to this 18-year-old girl as the love of his life, you know, and that could get creepy really easily, you know. So that was really hard to do that, and everything, and all the chaos that's going on when Clark enters, all he's fixated on is, you know, keep in mind, this is the first time he's seeing his dead wife in like 40 years, right? He's been dead. George knows the numbers. I never remembered the years and the numbers.
I think it's like 30 something.
He hasn't
Almost
seen her for years and years, and now she's now alive. So he could give a shit about the rest of the people in the room. He just wants to go and see her and touch her and talk to her, you know? So that for me was so hard, and it was hard to deliver those lines, because they, like, when you're looking at it, it kind of doesn't make sense sometimes, because you're like, what's going on? You know, it takes a while for that story to come out. But when Clark walks through that door and he's like, Lisa, like, what? Like, back off, dude. You know,
Right.
like what the hell?
And that's part of his stopping, in that scene is him finding
Yeah.
himself
Yeah.
like he doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
He says, you don't think about what you're going to say when you get there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
No,
got
but
it.
so
That's
true.
about it too. He was like, she probably isn't really into this right now.
Yeah.
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 No.
Because she doesn't even know who he is at first.
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
and keep in mind when she's at that age, she hasn't connected with him yet. She meets him that night. And that was a huge challenge in this whole film, remembering where the characters are and what they know at the time that scene is going on.
Mhm.
So when I walk in that door, Lisa, where she is at 18 in her current state, she meets me that night. So she had met me once before, but we fall in love that night. So she has not yet experienced that. So here's this guy who's totally in love with her and totally just wants to be with her. And she hasn't even met him yet, so it's a weird dynamic. And to pull that off is really it's tough without looking creepy,
Yeah.
Plus, you're a janitor. I mean, that's just
Plus I'm a janitor trying to figure all this shit out.
Try pulling off. It's one thing if you're Cyrano de Bergerac, but it's another thing if you're walking around with a mop bucket trying to pull that shit
Yeah,
off.
it's stereotypical.
Yeah.
All right. After this discussion, I apologize, Patrick, that we shit on Clark as much as we did.
And
Understand it.
And I'll make you feel even worse because my backstory for Clark was that he met Lisa, they fell in love, they found out that she was sick. Clark actually gives up his high-paying, because remember, he was going to be a lawyer. He was going to law school. So in my backstory, he gives up his law career. And Lisa becomes a teacher because they can't have children because she's got cancer. So she becomes a teacher because she loves kids. And Clark gives up his job as a lawyer and takes a job as a janitor so he can be near her every day while she's sick. So now don't you feel terrible about making fun of Clark?
Horrible.
That's even sadder than what I came up with. I'll go with that.
That was look, man. That was Clark's choice. He was a lawyer. He could have tried to get a teaching degree, but he's like, no, I'm going to take the easy way out.
I'm going to be a janitor.
Yeah, I'm going to throw some sawdust on this vomit and teach kids about wormholes. That's what Clark's decision was. No, I love it. I didn't even really think about it, which is a testament to how well you did pull that off, not making it creepy, because our pedo alarm is very high on this show. Like, you should watch our review of The Professional with Natalie Portman. We tore that thing apart for the pedophile nastiness in that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So normally we spot that quickly, and it didn't even come up in the review. So
it didn't register.
You did a really good job pulling that off.
I was like, thank God, because if you guys would have went down that path, I would have been mortified.
Yeah,
but it's true because it's it was a really hard thing. And like I said, and then you got all these other crazy kids that are like asking all these crazy questions and doing all this other stuff. And all he wants to do is like grab his wife and hug her and kiss her and and be like, oh my God, we're together again. So there was a lot going on there.
It's a testament to you, because we will overlook it if it's not there. If it's on camera and we're like, that didn't look good, it didn't come off good.
Yeah.
We'll immediately, just because the joke's built in, it's there.
Right.
So you got to take the shot.
Yeah.
But the shot wasn't there. So testament to you, because you didn't make it come off creepy.
Well,
so
thank you.
Much like Clark, we look for the easy way out in the joke.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Well, I was yelling that at the screen when I was listening to your review about Clark. I was like, give him a little credit. Come on.
He didn't know. That reminds me a lot of when your character is doing something and you're like, I would never do this, and I don't understand how, like, I'm gonna make other people understand why they're doing this. And in this case with Deb, when she finds out that she dies in a car accident after graduation, and at first she's a little upset, but I'm like, she doesn't seem too broken up about it, you know? In my case, if someone told me I was gonna die in a car accident in a week, I would be freaking out. But you know, Deb's not really the kind of person to freak out. She's like the chillest one there. And
Mm-hmm.
I think being able to capture a sadness, but also like an optimism. I think she's so optimistic that she truly doesn't think that she's going to die. I think she at first is really heartbroken about it, but then I think she's like, "Well, I left the room. I can come back. If I choose I don't want to die, I'm not going to die." And I think she just has such a strong optimism about it, and that was my idea for that. But yeah, upon reading that at first, I was like, this is like the opposite of what I would do. I would be screaming, crying, throwing
Oh,
up, like,
yeah, I would be emphasizing every use of the word fuck when I found out I was going to die in a week, for sure. But again, to your testament, you did a good job of achieving that because it was totally in her character, just kind of zen about the whole thing. And, you know, the chips are
gonna
going to
happen,
fall where
it's
they
gonna happen,
may.
it's
It is
not.
what it is. Yeah. And as a fellow pothead, Deb, I get it. I'm right there with you now. I'm like, whatever happens, bro, happens.
Yeah.
That's how Corey treats the show too.
Yeah.
Just whatever.
If it's
And-
funny, it works out.
Yeah, that's it.
I broke precedent and I did some research myself. And I found out that we have a dual threat here. Gianna also directed a little short film that is available on YouTube, kids watching, called Blood Wash. I watched that right before we recorded. I really liked it, man. That was really good.
Thank you.
Were
I,
you have you always wanted to do that, or is the directing and writing just a way for you to get involved? And our follow-up question to that, are you now worried George is going to murder you?
Well, the film was actually inspired by my fear of George murdering me. I think I've always just been someone that loves movies and television in all capacity, that it was something I wanted to get off of my chest before I did anything else really. It was the first semester of my freshman year in college.
Okay.
I had absolutely nothing to do it with. I won a pitch competition actually, which is why that was able to be made in the first place. So very lucky for that. It was based off this like campy little video game from the 90s that my friend and I were like fixated on for a while. And I thought it would just be really cool to shoot. I thought there were a lot of scenes in it that I could like picture in my head. And I was like, you know, a lot of the writing is already done. There's only a few things that I would have to maneuver. It would be cool to. I actually was able to work with the maker of the video game and
Nice.
like, create this little vision for it, which was really cool. And you know, I actually appreciate that we brought this up because I don't think I give myself enough credit for this, honestly. I think I watch it back and I'm like, I actually hate the way I did all of that. But I think, you know, freshman year me, like, you know, it's another thing like I was saying before, like just do it to have it and be able to watch it back and be proud of yourself for doing it. But I have always really liked writing and directing as well, and hopefully sometime in the future doing more acting, and I get to a place where I'm able to explore that as well, write a story of my own and be able to help direct it, produce it. I think that would be a really big goal of mine someday.
That's awesome. That's awesome. With that, directing something, does that help give you a better understanding of what George is doing behind the lens and telling you to do, and kind
Yeah,
of that, or
1,000%.
or does it give you that kind of Ella attitude where you're like, shut the fuck up, George, I'm a director too?
I think it gave me a whole newfound respect for directors because I think I went into that thinking it was going to be so easy. It's not. It's so hard. There's because I'm an actor, I was able to direct the actors pretty well, but then you need to also be in charge of like 50 other things while these people are asking you questions and like something's wrong with the lights and it's all your fault and you got to do it all. And I'm just like, wow, like it takes a lot, and you have to know everything you want down to a T. And George really had that. He had a really strong vision for all the characters, and as an actor playing one of them, it made all the difference. And I think that's the biggest part of it. And I think it also helped me be able to understand what he wanted from me a bit more. Because sometimes when you're telling an actor what to do, a little bit kind of gets lost in translation, and you don't really know how to explain exactly what you want. So I think there's like that language that it gives you where you can do it a bunch of times. Like I think it helps me be able to better understand like what George was looking for from me. And I hopefully I was able to not annoy you too much with that, not have to do it too many
No.
times over. And it just made me totally realize how colossal of a position that is, and it's really hard. And I think it did make a big difference in being able to understand what's expected of you and how to be a good actor to work with. Definitely, because
Every relationship's different, but I felt the same way. You know, we had some common ground there with certain things.
yeah,
You know?
I love it.
Yeah, it's like there's also definitely like actors where it's hard to find common ground, and it's hard to put what you want them to do into words that they'll understand, and it just creates a lot of stress. So I think that was able to help me kind of get around like my worry of not doing everything correctly.
Well, I think Patrick, as her agent, we now need to get her some directing roles.
Yes.
The onus is on you now.
I think doing Blood Wash was like a big learning experience for me, because there was so much that I had to do that I literally learned how to do on the spot. Really small crew, like filming in the basement. Everyone was like running around, and I think it definitely helps with your organizational skills. I'm sure, George, you got like a spreadsheet for everything, and it's now that I think I've been able to learn how to do that a bit more. I definitely want to try doing it.
You never sent me the link. I didn't even know it was on YouTube. But I'm
It's
embarrassed. I didn't do my research.
That kind of has gone forgotten, because, like, you know, I look at it and I'm like, I wish I did this differently. I wish that this wasn't like that. But I think every
That's always
day,
the case.
I realize more that I'm like, you know, I should cut myself a little bit of slack, you know?
No, it's something to be proud of. Look, if you were Clark and you were like, I want to direct something, you would have just been like, I'm going to be a key
I'm just going to be a janitor.
Yeah, fuck it. Can I be in craft services?
Well, I have a fun question for all three of you guys. Is there perfect world, right? Is there an actor or an actress or a filmmaker that is on your list that you would love to collaborate and work with?
Yes. I have a lot, and this one's been heavy on my mind. I've been thinking a lot about the DCU, about James Gunn. James Gunn, if you're watching this, which you totally are.
Yeah. Somebody lied to you.
I would love to play Starfire in a live-action Teen Titans movie.
Right on.
I used to be obsessed with her as a kid. She was like my favorite ever. I was like, I want to be just like her. And I think I would get in that audition room and just drop her entire lore, and they'd have no choice. But,
I like it.
Yeah, I think that's on my bucket list. And you know what? I think I don't know. I feel like he's working on it right now. I feel like he's writing it, and I need to send him those brain waves. I gotta work on it. I gotta.
Corey, isn't he
Absolutely.
in your speed dial?
Oh, I already texted him. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, just
I got a thumbs up emoji.
Yeah, sweet. All right. Thanks. Yeah.
Glad we can help.
Just call him.
He's gonna call Patrick here after the show.
Yeah.
And they'll iron out the deeds.
His people can talk to my people. It'll just work something out.
Yeah. It'll all be smooth.
Absolutely. Patrick, who's on your bucket list of people you'd love to work with?
Well, here's the thing. So a few years back, I actually I was accepted into a master class that was taught by Alec Baldwin. Every summer, he used to hold auditions, and he would choose like 20 people from around the country to work with him for the summer. And he's a crazy human being in public, but I have to tell you, as a teacher, both his parents were teachers, and he is the most incredible teacher. And I did a scene with him, and it was such an amazing experience. It was an amazing summer for me to get to like work with someone like that like when I got this thing, I thought, oh, he's probably going to show up, for an hour at the beginning of this, an hour at the end of this, and we're never going to see him again. But he was there every day, all day, working with all of us. And he was just incredible. And he would tell these incredible stories about work that he did. He did his thesis paper when he was going for a degree on Al Pacino. And he actually lived with Al Pacino for a week to write this thesis paper.
Oh, wow.
On him. And he would tell these stories about Al Pacino. And when he gets done with the story, you feel as though you've met Al Pacino. That's what a great storyteller he is. And then for our final exam, our final project, we all got assigned a scene to do from a particular play. And he chose the scenes that we were going to do. And the scene that he chose for me was from a play called The Attic. And the reason, and I found out after the fact, the reason that he gave it to me is because he was doing that show at the end of the summer. And that was the part he was going to play. And he wanted to see what I could do with that part.
Oh, wow.
Which was like, just blew me away. Because he said to me, he goes, I see a lot of myself in you. He and I are the same age. And we grew up in the same town, Massapequa. So that was such, it was just such an amazing experience. So I would just love to work with him. And he's also insane. I mean, he's just this crazy person. We would have these insane, we had conversations about Kim Basinger, because that was his first wife. And we would go out at night and we'd be drinking and he'd be telling me stories about Kim Basinger, and it was like insanity. So I just really like the guy. I really like the guy, and I would love to work with him again.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
George, you're up to bat. Anybody that you would love to work with?
I'm going to take it might be an easy way out because it's impossible to ever happen. But you guys just did Easy Money review. Rodney Dangerfield, if he was still around, that's my, I've written a Rodney Dangerfield script, as I like to call it. We almost made it, but COVID shut it down. But he was the best. I mean, it's not the actor side of it. He thought he was doing stand-up comedy while he was acting, they say. But
oh yeah,
that's my guy.
Yeah, I never told I never told Armando when Easy Money came out Friday at like midnight. I literally got a text from George that said, "Easy Money, awesome! This is like my favorite fucking movie."
Awesome.
I was like, "Well, at least we got one view. That's good."
No,
that'd be amazing.
Rodney's one of my favorites.
My dreams were dashed because I had always wanted to work with write something for Woody Allen or Roman Polanski. So. That failed. Back to the drawing board.
Square one.
Ooh. Well, on that note,
not that anybody asked me, but
no, Corey, nobody asked you.
Speaking of creepy Clark, yeah,
yeah, I got to work with this guy like every day.
Yeah.
That's how I can spot a creep.
Yeah. Look, it's not because of their. Never mind. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead.
But I think that's all we got. Do you got anything else, Corey?
No.
Okay.
I've done enough.
I'll let the floor be yours. You guys can take turns. You can, rock, paper, scissors it. Is there anything that you're currently working on? I know Waning Poetic is George, when does that premiere?
July 20th at the Sayville Theater in New York, 7 o'clock. 6 o'clock red carpet, 7 o'clock showtime.
Outstanding.
Bring an enemy.
Bring everyone.
Bring
an enemy and become
We'll have more
friends
shows of it.
after the
Bring an
sage
enemy,
advice.
become friends, become
Yes.
lovers.
Absolutely.
Deb.
From the mouth of Deb.
What's the address for that theater again?
Is there anything that you guys are working on, social media stuff that people can follow you to see what you guys have coming up in the near future?
Yeah, I actually this Sunday night I did an episode of The Food That Built America on the History Channel. So my episode is airing this Sunday night at 9 p.m.
Awesome.
And then it will run again. It's on the Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise. And I do not play Colonel Sanders, but I play his best friend who opened the first franchise. So look for that.
Awesome.
Nice.
You can find, usually I post about anything that I'm working on, and I've got a couple cool things coming up. Don't want to say too much about them yet, but my Instagram is at Jiana Casazza, which will be a nightmare to spell, but maybe it'll be on the screen.
I got it.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the screen.
Awesome. Yeah, so got some fun things coming up, which hopefully we'll be able to see shortly.
So we'll all follow you on Instagram, and as soon as you can spill the tea, just put it on there.
Definitely.
There you go.
Starfire
Waning Poetic movie
near you.
Yes,
that's right. I hope.
Yes, and at Waning Poetic Movie, George, you got some others too. I know you do.
Yeah. Right One Productions, GMML Films. You could find me somewhere too if you want.
That's
I'm
right.
not the important one. Follow the movies.
Yes, you are, George.
You could follow Gianna. You could follow Patrick. George, you could catch George. He's just wandering around on the street sometimes. Just say hello. He's got a Mets hat on. Everything's cool. But you guys,
I think they just
go to Gregory's. He's usually there.
You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for making yourselves available. This has been absolutely fantastic. So, and everybody, go to the premiere, July 20th. Just mob the place and bring your friends. Have a good time with it.
Yeah, so many tropes going on. It'll be crazy.
I love it. I love it.
We are cliche magnets.
Love it.
Well, thank you guys. You guys have a great night. It was awesome talking to you.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Yep.